Hi, developers. My name is Ana Manzan, and today I'm here with Ray Carneiro and also Valerio in our first Developer English Tech Live. We are very excited about this project because the intent here is to help people that are not fluent or don't feel comfortable enough to speak in English, to interact with us and start to follow up some talks in English. So don't be afraid to make mistakes when asking questions or interacting with us. We are here to help you improve your skills. For this to happen, we are not going to answer any question asked in Portuguese. So this way, you can start to speak and interact a little bit more. Also, we'd like to invite you guys to come to our presidential meetups. Follow us in our Meetup, Facebook, and Instagram pages to know more about the news. Now, Rai and Valerio will be with you guys. Bye.
Hello, developers. How are you? This is very nice to be here. This is my first talk for DevelopersBR actually, and I'm really happy to be here to share some knowledge with you. I just wanted to tell you that let's make this funny. Let's make this presentation be funny. Don't be afraid to ask questions to practice your English. If you have any doubts, you can ask us. But just remember that we are only answering questions in English. We are not even reading anything in Portuguese. Actually, I don't speak Portuguese today. I just speak English. All right. Do you want to introduce yourself now, Valerio, so I can go ahead later? Okay.
Hi, hello, good evening. This is, as Anna told us, it's our first event online in English. It's very important because English is the main language to technology. So it's important and you get used to listen and to write in English. Ray, it's working abroad, companies in Europe, United States, and I'm living in Lisbon now, and it's very important to get a good job or get more knowledge when you know English. So that's the main goal to this project, and help you to learn any technology you don't know or you need to improve. Like today we are talking about REST API. It's a very important subject in technology. It's used all the time. Ray's talking more about this tonight. It's very good to have you here tonight with us.
Thank you. Actually, my name is Ray, but people say hi, or people call me Dr. Ray. That's very sad, man. You know. But anyway, I will share my screen now. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Uh, Anna, can you see my screen on live presentation?
Yes, I can. It's all right.
All right, folks. So let's get started. I will speak a little bit slow. Okay. So if you guys have any trouble, just write on the text, and I can repeat that. Okay. So the talk for today is building your first RESTful API with .NET Core. I will introduce myself again. My name is Ray Carneiro. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and today I work as an independent software development consultant, and I'm also a business partner at Link Soluções here in Brazil. I am a speaker, or I try to be a speaker when I can, and I'm also a technical writer. I like to write some stuffs about .NET mainly. So just to give an overview about this is a level 100. This is for beginners. Actually, this is a very easy and ongoing talk. So we chose these because we think that it's important that you can understand what we are saying. Today I work for some companies in Brazil, as I mentioned, but also in Europe and also in US. And if you don't know English yet, I can tell you you are losing a lot of time and a lot of money, because a lot of companies, they are coming to Brazil, and they are hiring Brazilians because we are very productive. We can work with back end, with front end. So anyway, if you don't know English yet, you should really invest on English, and that's gonna open a lot of new opportunities for you and for your career. Okay. Okay. So the next step is, let's start by talking about the previous way, or in some age, in some decades maybe, before, people used to have or to create software thinking about only client server development. It means what? It means that there was only a single server and many clients consuming that server. But do you see any problem here? Do you see any problem here, Valerio, in this model? Valerio, you there?
Hi. Yes.
Yeah. You see any problem here by doing this approach?
Uh, Everything is centralized in one main computer.
Yeah. Everything centralized in one server or in one computer, and that brings us a lot of problem, right? So the first problem is we have a single point of failure. It means that if the server crashes, if your hardware crashes or something happen, you lose everything, right? Because you are there connected with with many clients, so you have a single point of failure. That's the main problem. And you also have a centralized development. It means that you are centralizing your development into a single box, and that's not a good option. And you also have, talking about scalability issues and limitations, you can have limitations when you have only one single server. Of course, today we have cloud computing, we have some other options, but trust me, a lot of companies, they still follow this method, and they are having a lot of problems, right? I just talked about vertical scalability, and if you don't know about that, it means that by vertical scalability, you are able to increase your server hardware. You can add more processing, more power, more memory. However, at some point, you're going to have a limit, right? You can have, for example, 32 gigabytes of memory. You can scale your processing, but you will be stuck. At some time, you will be stuck. This means vertical scalability, okay? Another point of view is the horizontal scalability. Scalability is a tricky word, right? Scalability. But that happens when you add or when you use more servers, and then you can distribute your application into multiple places. So today, for example, when you have web apps on Azure, for example, you are actually, uh, or maybe, distributing your application in multiple servers. Actually, you don't know that. I hope you are, but maybe it's on the same box, but maybe not. But anyway, if you think about scalability and having more power for your application, you should think about that and understand this concept. And by the way, are you aware of serverless? Do you know about serverless, Valerio? Have you tried that?
Yes, serverless. It's a very interesting concept because it's not without server. Okay, the name serverless means it's in English without server. But the concept, we don't care about server. That's the main point. We create normally functions. These functions are running. We don't care where they are executing when they are needed. It's just it. We don't care about servers. We don't care about memory. Everything is the the Azure in this case can be handling these connections, these functions. It solve all the problem we have to when we are worried about scalability. So
Yeah,
you don't
tricky
care
word.
about a horizontal or vertical. It's the most modern way to create applications when they grow uh, as needed. Basically, that.
Exactly. That's correct. So, in short words, it means you don't care about the server, you don't care about the infrastructure, you just run what you need to run, you pay for that, and that's it in a short term, of course. So, just in general, what I spoke right now about scalability is vertical and horizontal, right? So, this is only a draft or an image to represent what I was saying. Of course, if you're using serverless, you don't need to care about it. You just go ahead and do what you have to do. But we came here to talk about APIs. APIs is the key here, and we will be talking about this now. And in a couple minutes, we are gonna start building some APIs here. I'm very excited to do that. Actually, APIs they mean application programming interface. So this image here is only representing what we have developers, right? Those folks here, us, and you create web APIs. Usually, who's going to consume that? Usually, but not a rule, is web and mobile applications, right? But what are APIs? They are basically a backend system that is running some application functionality, and that functionality is not always, but almost always transferring data, manipulating data, checking some business rules, etc. So one way to work with APIs today is to expose those APIs into backend systems to manipulate data and to handle your application functionalities. Okay, you want to say something here, Valerio? Want to share something? Or can I go ahead?
Let's come back here. Yes. As I told you before in the beginning, web APIs is very important. It's today, I believe it's a central part of whatever you're doing. Okay, I'm having working with mobile applications, web applications, desktop applications, but the data is not is not in centralized in data centers in the company. It's everywhere. Normally, we use cloud computing to access this data, and the way you access this information, it's about web APIs. We're talking the way the web APIs using REST, but before there's SOAP, something like that. And all the projects I'm working, all the projects, there is no exception, there are web APIs. So I believe it's the most important part. You don't know if it will be a web application, if it will be a mobile application, but you know that there are web APIs to connect.
Yeah, it also becomes something really common in the IT industry, in the software development industry, to create APIs and to expose them. It's easily, right? And here are some reasons for that. For example, when you expose APIs, you can centralize and distribute those APIs for many endpoints, for many devices. For example, for mobile, for sensors, for wearable devices, TVs, even cars. So you can call APIs by your car and do whatever you want to do. That's very nice. It's very easy also to maintain your API. It's easy to publish, to do versioning. Versioning is something very nice because it become a very nice strategy for creating APIs. The strategy is you can create versions like V1, V2, V3, and you can change those versions, and you can tell your customer what has changed in each version. So it's very nice. It's very interesting. That's how people do that. So what you do in the end is you expose your system for any language to consume that. For Java, for PHP, any other language that is able to work with HTTP protocol is able to call your API, your endpoint, and do whatever you want to do, right? When we talk about HTTP verbs, we need to understand that we are following a protocol, a HTTP protocol that is very low weight, right? And those verbs, there are many verbs, but here I'm just showing four of them. Okay, maybe you guys know about it. That is get, post, put, and delete. They are the most common used for CRUD operations: creating, reading, updating, and deleting. Get is to get some information, right? Like a list, to go there to get a list or to get one information. This method, it's used to retrieve whatever information is identified by your endpoint, right? So when you get something, you go there and get that information in a list or a single resource. Post HTTP verb is meant to post whatever information is sent to the request. So when you want to create something, you are posting that. Put is usually used to update whatever information you want to send to to that endpoint. And delete is delete, right? I don't have to say anything else here. But anyway, if you want to delete something, you have the endpoint to just pass that information and be happy. That's how things work here. And this is a meme that Valerio likes a lot. REST APIs resource everywhere. This is true. This is very true today. This is how things work. We have REST APIs everywhere today consuming. If I could say a number of how many resources we have, I don't even have a clue. I'm not even trying to guess this, but working with REST APIs is something awesome. All right, so as we say, talking is very cheap, right? We need to write code. Let's write some code right now. Before we get started, what we're gonna do is let me explain what we are going to build. So basically, we're going to build the API level that is here in purple color. Then this API is going to access a service interface, and then the service interface is going to get a repository. In this case, we are going to use Entity Framework Core, right? And this is going to manipulate some entities that we have in our domain. Okay, so that's pretty much what we are gonna do right now. So let me open here Visual Studio. Do you guys prefer black or white color here? Can you help me, Anna? If they prefer dark or light, what's better to view?
Sure, I will. Guys, one guy said black, black.
Uh-huh. Okay, I will be using black, but if you guys have troubles to see, I can change. Okay.
Yeah, I
All
was
right.
there.
All right. So I'll be coding now. If you guys have questions, just tell me. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to create a project. So file, new project, and here I will first create the Visual Studio solution. Okay. If I'm going fast, let me know. But anyway, and here I will create a folder. I will call it RESTful API .NET Core. And I'll call the solution company ponto dot ponto company dot solution company dot software.
Hi.
Yes.
There's a guy asking you to zoom it. Is there a way to make it?
I think I can zoom, but only on C sharp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, only on C sharp. When I get started with C sharp, I will do that. But I can zoom like this. Okay.
Okay.
I just created the solution right now. It's a blank solution. And now what I'm gonna do is I will create some folders in this solution. So I will right click, add folder. I will create a source folder. Inside this source folder, I will add API. I will add another folder that is called app.core. And I will add another folder that is called app.infra. So what I did here is I just have one source, API, core, and infra. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. So
Just
what? Yes.
sorry. Rafael, no, actually, Gustavo is telling you to use magnifier from Windows. Do you know it?
Yes, but I don't have it. Let me try magnifier.
Okay.
Just a second. Yeah, but it's not helping me. I will do something and zoom. Okay. All right. So guys, this is what I have now. Okay. Can you guys see this way? Can you please check, Anna, if they can see if I zoom sometimes?
Yeah, they are just about to answer that. Just
Okay, not a problem.
can you guys see?
I will zoom sometimes and show how I'm doing this.
Yeah, I think just a little bit more of zoom and they will be able to see better, okay?
All right, like this, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is in the API folder, I'm adding my first .NET Core API. So I will create a new project. I will choose .NET Core, and then I will choose ASP.NET Core Web Application. That's what I did. Right click, new project, .NET Core, and then ASP.NET Core Web Application. And here I will call this company.api. Okay. When I do that, it's going to ask me what I want to do. So you can see here that there is a pop-up that's called .NET Core, and you can choose here what is the version of .NET Core. And right below here, you can see that there is a API option. So right now, I'm creating a .NET Core in the version 2.2, and I'm creating the API. If you want to enable Docker support, if you want to configure for Windows, for Linux, or if you want to configure for HTTPS, you can flag here and you are ready to go. It's easy. But in this case, I'm not doing it and I'm not using any authentication. Okay, so anybody can go there and can check my web API. So I'm going to create this and I'll set this as my startup project. I'm just play this API because you can see that there is one default controller here. This controller is called values controller. So we were talking about the verbs, right? HTTP get, HTTP post, HTTP put, and delete. By default, when you create the project, it comes with those HTTP verbs by default. So you can see that I have a get here. You can see that I have a post here.
Ray,
Yes.
before you going in more advanced details, a few years ago in previous versions of Visual Studio, we create web APIs not using this approach on the Visual Studio templates. Use create empty web pages, something like that. And because this template to create web APIs, it was created too many code, usually this code, I forgot the name, when we have a
Some
lot of
some
code.
trash some trash code, right?
It
Something
was
we're not
not
using.
Flash. It was another uh, name we use. But today, the best approach to create a web API in Visual Studio is use this template. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's very clean. You don't have boilerplate code. That's the
Yeah.
word. Today it's very clean. It's very good way to starting a web API project.
Yeah, sure. You are totally correct. I just went by the easiest way here to show them how to do that, but very good reminder. Thank you. So this is my first API running. Actually, it's only returning some values. So what you need to see here is if you inspect the network table here on Google Chrome, you can see that we have an endpoint and we have the requested method, right? So we are calling this endpoint at localhost 49644 slash API slash values. It's a get and it's returning a status code. So if you know nothing about a status code, etc., I think you should read a little bit about it because it's very important to understand those status codes and how it works. Okay. In this case, we call this URL here, and we got a get and a 200. Okay. I'm not going into detail here because we don't have much time. But anyway, that's how it works. All right. So let me close this. I will leave the company API here. I'm not doing anything here. We're going to implement now the core project. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is app.core. I will add here some folders. So I will go add um, new folder. Oops, sorry, I forgot to create the project first. So add new project. And here I'm using .NET Standard to do that. So what I'm gonna do here, I will create a company dot demo dot core. This is what I'm doing. I just chose .NET Standard. I'm selecting a CRES library to do that. And the name of my project is company.demo.core. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm creating this here. All right. So inside of this core project, I will create some subfolders where I will create some classes and some other things. So the first thing that I want to do here, I will add uh, a folder called entities. That's where my entities will play a good role. I will add another folder called DTO for my data transfers objects. And I will create another folder here called interface. I think there's a background noise right here. There's a trash car passing. All right. Um, so entities and also I will create here a folder that I will call base. Okay. So I have base, DTO, entities, and interfaces. And the last one that I will create is the folder called services. Because remember, my API, it's going to call the services, and the services will provide me a service to consume, and the service will handle by dependency injection. It's going to handle what is my database call. In this case, we're going to use entity framework, right? So here in the base, I will create a base entity. Okay, it's only a class, and the name of this class is going to be base entity. Anna, I just zoom a lot my screen. Can you please ask if they can see?
Yeah, sure.
Can you see?
Can you
Good.
see, guys?
It's okay to me.
Yeah, to me
Are-
too, but they're not answered yet. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
while
they're okay with that.
okay, so while they are seeing this, I will remove this. I don't like to let some namespaces there that I will not use. Then I will create a public base entity. Here I'm gonna have ID, and also I'm gonna have is active property. It's a boolean, right? What what I'm doing here is I already have a table in a database, API demo, right? And I have a table that is called customers. So what our API is going to do is we're going to handle the customer tables. We're going to add customers, manipulate customers, delete customer, etc. Okay. So we have an ID, a name, and a boolean for if is active or not. So what I'm doing here is I'm using inheritance. I create a base entity, and any other object or any other class needs to inherit from this. Everybody's going to have an ID. Everybody's going to have a is active property also. Do you think this is a good practice, Valerio? What do you think about it?
Yes, I when I create a repository, I have normally I do something like that, and there is there are others type others information like uh, the last access, the last update, and
Yeah.
that's not necessary because anti-framework and maybe give us to us, but it's some data you have used to use in our application because when we are creating some access, we have to forgot the word. Um, we have to want to do the same data in our mobile phone. It's the
Hmm.
same on the server. I forgot the name of this
No,
process.
not a problem. Hmm.
So it's very important. In EID, it's interesting because all the entities, all the objects, all the data has identifier. So use
All right.
that to like a primary key, things like that.
Very nice. In this case, I would just create some two columns here, not much think because of the time. Right now, what I'm gonna do is in the entities folder, I will add a new class, and this new class will be called customer, right? Like our database table. So this is gonna be a public class, but this is going to inherit from the base entity. This is the trick that we have here. So what I'm doing is control dot, and right now I'm using I am inheriting that base entity. And one other property that we have here is the name, right? Because in the base entity we have ID is active, and here we are only creating this public string name where the set is going to be private. It means that only the class itself can change, can manipulate this data. And I will create a constructor here, and inside this constructor, I will pass string name, and I will pass the boolean is active. And what I do here is whoever wants to use to consume this class will need to pass me a name, and will need to pass me if it is active or not. So I'm not letting any other part of the system to manipulate this. All right, so this is just pretty basic, right? And in the DTO, I'm going to create a class to transfer this data. So I'll call this um, customer DTO, right? And the customer DTO is nothing but a class. So it's public class. It's gonna have the string with the name, and here it's going to have the boolean is active. Okay, so just one information, I'm not following uh, patterns, I'm not following architecture, I'm just creating something very, very simple. The purpose here is the English, right? And so just to be aware of that, I'm not creating something really, really complex here, just something basic, so that we can understand the English properly. Okay, so I have created, yeah.
Oh, right. It's a very basic code, but the concept is the same. Okay,
Uh-huh.
you always using DTO when you're creating APIs because you have all your data. Okay, you have where what you have in your database is not always what you want to your client get from the API. Okay, so you have
Mhm.
some data to mapping. Okay, to mapping what uh, you user get or send, and your what you have in your database.
Exactly. That's correct. Thank you. Okay, so we have created the base entity, we have created the DTO, and we have created the customer itself, right? So what I'm gonna do now is I will create the interface, right? If you don't know what is the, i- what if you don't know what is an interface, in short words, we can consider that as a contract. Okay, when you create interface, who implement that interface is going to follow the contract. We need to implement whatever you wrote on the interface. So what we're gonna do now, we will create an interface for the repository. So I'll call it I repository, right? I will delete those those guys, and this is going to be public interface I repository. But here we are dealing with generic types, so that's why I put this T here. It's a generic type for a repository in an interface. However, I will specify that where T is a base entity. Okay, so what I'm saying here, this is my contract. You can use my interface as long as the type is inherent from the base entity. So that's what I just wrote here in the interface. And I will need to create here, I will only create 4 methods for signatures. Actually, I'm not implementing the methods here, but only the signature. So I will say, I will have a generic type to get, and for that, I will receive an ID, right? I will get I enumerable, I enumerable. I need to add the system.link here, but also it's I enumerable generic I enumerable that's gonna list, and here I will have the add, right? It's also an entity and an update that's not returning any data for the entity. I enumerable the generic. All right, so here I only have 4 operations: get, list, add, and update. That's all we have. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we're going to create another repository here for my customer table, for my customer data. Okay, what we're gonna do here is I will add another interface. This interface is called I customer repository. Let me delete those usings. This is gonna be a public interface. And here I am inheriting, I'm actually implementing I repository. And I'm saying that I'm going to use the customer entity, right? So what I just wrote here is, hey, this is my iCustomer repository. I am using the interface iRepository, and this guy inside here, the customer, he inherits from the base entity. So it works. If I create, if I come here, and if I take this, it's not gonna work here, right? Because it's not inherited. So I'm breaking this rule here. But anyway, just going back here. All right. So far, what we have a repository and a iCustomer repository. This repository here is a generic repository. Okay, that's only that. All right. So what I'm gonna do now is I will create the interface for the service. Right? I said that we are going to use a service here. So what I'm gonna do is on the interface, I will add a new interface again, and I call it I customer service. Let me remove again. It's going to be public. And here I will specify what needs to be implemented for the services. So what needs to be implemented is, hey, give me a customer, right? And the method is a get, and you need to pass me an ID, right? I need to add here the entities. I enumerable, enumerable from customer also, and this is a list. I need to add again the generic customer. I will add the customer, but I will pass here the customer DTO. That's the difference. I'll call this DTO. When I want to add a customer, I need to pass this transferring representation that I call just customer DTO. And if I want to update, I will need to pass an ID and then the customer DTO that I'm also calling DTO, right? Very simple. Is there any question, Anna, on chat, or can I go ahead here?
Yeah, actually, there is some questions. I said the guys, we would answer that at the end. But if you want
Okay.
to, I can talk to you right now about that.
Maybe in the end, what do you think, Valerio? It's better in the end, right?
Okay.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe it's.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we just created the service, the repository. All right. So now, this is what we have. I just give another zoom here. This is what we have. We have the interfaces for the repository, for the service, and for the repository for the customer. Now I'm going to implement the services itself. So I will create a class that's going to be customer service. This customer service, what I'm going to do is I will implement that contract that I have. So it's going to be a public class, and I will inherit. Actually, I will sign a contract, right, with customer service. So just added the reference, and it say, hey, you need, hey Ray, you need to implement this guy here. So if I press Control dot, it's going to implement the interface. Of course, nothing is working here, nothing at all. But now I will use a technique that is called dependency injection. Okay, I will inject what is the repository. What is the repository? I will inject this into my service class. Okay, for that I need somehow a reference of that. So I create a private Radeon I repository, and that repository it's expecting a customer, right? and then I will create here customer repository. Okay, it's really only because once that's on memory, that's in memory, I can only read that. I cannot make any modifications, right? And I will create here the customer service where I will inject that here I repository customer, and I will pass a customer repository here, and then here I will assign the values, right? What is coming from outside is equal to this. I'm I'm not sure if they can see. So what I did here is the repository itself, and I am injecting here in the constructor, right? So let's do the implementation for adding this DTO. Sorry, not the DTO, but the implementation itself, right? But before doing that, one thing that I want to do is, let me see. No, I'm going to do the implementation right now. I'm not using here any try catch. Okay, I'm just doing something really simple. So what I'm going to do is var customer is equal to new customer. So I am instantiating a new customer here, and I need to pass two values: dto.name and dto dot is active, right? And I need to return here the value or the method actually from the repository. So customer repository dot add, and here I'm adding the customer. I just created the reference here, pass the values, and here I'm telling the repository to add it, right? At this point, we don't have any implementation from entity framework, etc. We have nothing, okay? It's only the implementation itself of the class. For the get, we will do the following. We will return customer repository dot get.
Ray,
Yes?
just a question from Glaucia Lemos, and she's asking you if you are using solid and domain-driven design concepts here.
Yeah, it's a very, yes, we are using solid here, the concepts, and for DDD we are using architecture that's called clean DDD. We are not using the whole concept of the DDD because it's very large. It's a lot of concepts, but yes, yes for both case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. And for the list, what I'm doing here is return customer repository dot list. Very simple, very straightforward. And here is something that I need to do to update. So to update, what I'm gonna do is var customer. I will create the new customer, pass the dto.name, dto.isActive, and I will pass here the customer ID that's coming from the signature. And then I will pass to the repository, customer repository dot update, that customer, right? That I just got the information, and I will return the ID. Here, I'm just calling this method get, right? I'm saying, hey, I just updated that information. Now give me that information back. This is what I did. All right. So far, this is the implementation, okay, for the core. We have a base, we have the entities, we have the DTO, we have the customer class, we have three interfaces where I have I repository, I customer service, I customer repository, and I just created the service right now. Just note that I don't have I don't have anything implemented here on entity framework side. Okay, we have nothing here. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. We just finished the API and we finished the core. You want to say
Ray,
something? Yes, sure.
yes, you have write a lot of code, and not of this code until now it's related to Web API. It's just a way to organize better your data. Okay,
Yeah,
that's way you have your data to now when you need this data from the methods called by the REST API, get, post, delete, you have this information. So all this work until now is to get this data ready to be sent to the user asking by Web API.
exactly. What I'm doing right now is the first thing that I created is the API, right? So the API so far is doing nothing. It's not consuming any data, anything. What I thought about is I will create this structure to call the data, and then I will plug this on the API. So the API will consume a service to do that. Uh, I'm not sure if you have much time, but I have this demo done here. So you guys think that I can show the demo done and we can go straight forward to the API. What do you guys think?
I believe it's the best approach. As I told to Ray before, you can we can have another chapter in this presentation where we can go in more details about service REST API and maybe showing more things about Web API. If you have questions, we can answer more
Yeah.
questions to the people you asking. It will be in YouTube, so there are a lot of people will be watching this later. So if you watching this later, you want to ask us some question, you can write. You will answer next time, maybe next week. I don't know yet, but very
Yeah.
soon we can take all the questions that you have now.
All right. I just okay. So let's do the following. I have the demo done here. So just to don't lose time, I will show then what I did. Okay. So this is pretty much what I was doing, right? I was going to implement three things. The first one is the application context. Okay. I was going to use the DB context from Entity Framework, and I was going to create the DB set for customers and configure the customer here for the fields. The other thing that I was going to, I'm just doing this, guys, because we are running out of time. Okay. We thought that 1 hour would be enough, but apparently it will take more time. Okay, so the customer repository here, I created a class to implement that, and I created also entity framework repository. Okay, this is where the magic for getting data works. It's the same thing: adding, getting, listing, and updating data. All right. So what I did here in the API. So let's jump to the API. What I did, I'm just showing that in the startup project, in the startup.cs from the API, what I did is I added um, that Swagger interface to use on my API. It's very easy. You just do a install package, something like this. I'm just gonna show them. Very important. You choose your API, and then you just do a install package. This is a very strange name, right? Swashbuckler, swashbuckler at .sp.NET Core. You do that, and then you need to configure the Swagger that is an interface where you can call the REST APIs, right? What I did also for the DI, for the dependency injection, is I added the services and I said, hey, this class needs to implement this contract, right? So this customer repository is implementing this, and I did it the same thing for the service, right? Another thing is I just added the default connection that is my local database, and here I configure the Swagger. Okay, Sorry for going fast, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So what I do here is when I configure the API, I created the controller, customer controller. Okay, this is what I did here on the API. And you can see that I'm telling that my API, we are producing application slash JSON. You can work with XML, with JSON. Do you remember any other data format that we can use here, Valerio, other than JSON or XML? Plain text, right?
No. Yes, I believe there is text, but JSON it's the most commonly used,
Hmm.
and maybe XML sometimes, but it's very rare. In text, almost none. I believe
Yeah,
JSON it's
I'm not
the
sure
best
people.
format to transfer data in internet. I'd like to uh, tell one more thing about it. This when you using ASP.NET Core Web API, you are using the MVC frameworks. So there
Hmm.
are view, controller, and model, the MVC, and all the handling with the requisitions it's done in the controller. So the controller you have as Ray you explain right now, you have a route when that's the address you get in the access this information, but the controller is where your code is in web API using ASP.NET Core. Okay.
That's correct. And you can change the route also if you want a specific route like I did here. I just said, hey, controller, I want to work here using API slash customer. So please configure that route. And when that route comes from any device or any other place, you can get the resource that is being asked, right? So just to continue very fast here, what I did is the same thing. I'm using DI here, and by using DI, I just put the service and just assigned that service using dependency injection here in my controller, and I did all the verbs. You can see get, post, put. Okay, I just forgot to put the delete here, but that works fine. And another thing that mentioned here is that what kind of response I can get from the server or from my API. It can return a not found, it can return a server error. So if for some reason you type in a different way, for example, if you don't follow this route API customer, it's gonna give you a 400 sorry, 404 not found, right? So let's play. Let's see how things are gonna be here. I hope it works because I just built this today, and I hope it works very well. So what I'm using here is the Swagger, right? I just configured the Swagger. It's a very nice interface. It's used in many projects. So you can test your APIs locally, okay? And these are the verbs or the endpoints that I have for my customer entity. I can do the get, I can do put, and I can do post. Let me check the database. I don't think I have any data here. Let me see. No, I don't have any data. So if I want to test my API, it's very easy. If I want to post something, I just click here on Swagger interface, and it's going to give me a JSON representation of my customer model, right? Name and is active. So I will add here, Ray Carneiro, and let me pause here. Let me just put a breakpoint here. Oops. Just add a breakpoint on post. So here I'm sending this representation of JSON, that is my name and the Boolean, and I'll tell him to execute. When I tell him to execute, you can see that I'm passing my DTO with two values, Ray Carneiro and Isaac true, right? And I'm calling this service. My API In fact, he doesn't know what is this service because it's coming from an interface, from an outside implementation, but it's passing my customer here, right? So I'm coming here. That's the code that we were doing, right? I create a customer. I'm passing the name. I'm passing the is active equals to true, and I told Entity Framework to add my customer. It just added, and then you can see that the return is a HTTP status code. So that's how the API will tell you the fallback or the response of what have been requested. In this case, we requested a HTTP post. It created that data, and then it's returning, hey, it's okay. I just created that, and that's the data, right? So let's see what's the return. And there we go. This is exactly what you were speaking, right? Right, Valerio. This is the request for the request URL. So
Yes.
this is the endpoint, guys. This is really important. You can see this is your website and the port, and this is the route because we are using MVC here. We just configure the route that is API/customer, and we said, hey, uh, here's my here's my data, a JSON, right? He created that information, and then he gave me a response. We are working with HTTP here, and that's how it works. You send a request, and it gives back you a response. Another point to explain is that when we work with HTTP requests, they are stateless. Do you want to share something about it, Valerio? Do you want to
Yes.
explain then what is stateless? What's the concept?
The concept of stateless is that if you make a lot of requests, you don't have any changes between these requests. The data it's the same. Your request can change the data. That's what that means about stateless,
Mhm.
and you can change if you give if you request by get, you don't have any change
That's correct.
uh, in made this request. Your request don't change, don't you get request don't change the data you get, something
That,
like that.
that's correct. Thank you. And just another point here is that you can see that when you use Swagger, it's really important for projects when you don't have to send any document for a customer. You just configure Swagger. You tell Swagger you just need to configure, right? And then your customer, when you pass in the resource of your API, your customer can manipulate and test your API in a very easy way. So if I create another table here on the database, and if I create another class here and configure everything, this interface is going to change quite a lot. It's very easy, right? um, I think this is it. I just would like to show a framework that's very nice for testing your API. If you guys don't know about this framework, it's called artillery.io. Okay, it's very easy. You need to have you just do this command npm install -g artillery. And what's the meaning of this framework? It's using for testing any API or any backend, and especially for loading my plus functional testing, behavior. I will do a simple test here. Okay, I will create a PowerShell here, and I have my API. It's ready. It's working, and I want to do the following. So far, I'm testing using this interface from Swagger, right? I'm using Swagger. I come here, I click on get a customer, I put ID. That's very annoying, and that's not enough. That's not enough for testing your API. So when you publish your API, probably million of users or billion of users will be using your API, right? So how can you test how much a load or how much code your API is able to handle, right?
Right.
Yes.
Just a second. Glaucia Lemos told you to explain that to download this package needs to download Node.js, something like this.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry. I thought people would know that, but exactly, Glaucia, thank you. Before doing this, you need to install Node.js on your computer, on your box, and then you are able to use the npm keyword to install things. Actually, you're just getting these from the internet and installing your computer. Thanks, Glaucia. So after doing this, after installing Node.js, you do this command npm install. I just did it. I'm not doing it again here, okay? But I just did it. So it's very easy to test your API. So what you do is, after installing, you can open any PowerShell or any command that you want, and you do the following. Let me get where is my API. My API is here, localhost 55. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I will write um, artillery, artillery. I just do a quick test, okay, quick. Then I will do the following. I wanna try 10 times 20 virtual users, and here I will ask for the resource. Let me see what is the ID I have. 3. So what I'm gonna do is I will simulate um, 20 users, 20 virtual users, and each user will try 10 times. So here we have 200 times, right? I will call my API 200 times and see if everything works. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. Artillery, quick, minus minus, count 10, and 10 is the time, and 20 here is how many users. Okay, when I press enter, this is what's gonna happen, or should happen. I think my PowerShell just is not working. Just a second, guys. All right. So you can see he's coming to my API automatically. I don't need to do anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, it's gonna run a lot of times. Okay, let me just take out these uh, breakpoints here. Okay, now what's it's doing? It's testing. You see, it's running and running and running 200 times. And what is the output of this framework? This framework basically will give you a report that how much requests worked. So in this case, he said, "Hey, I did 200 requests. They're all completed. I sent 5 requests per second." Okay, you can configure that later. Okay, these variables here, you can configure this. Actually, you can create a script, and this script you can how can I say, you can determine how many times this is gonna run, etc., etc. It's also give you a feedback about the latency of your server, of your network, right? And here is what matters. 100%. Okay, so what is the final result of this? I know that if I have 5 requests per second with 20 virtual users calling 10 requests, I know my API can handle that. Okay, so it's one of the ways that you can test your loading of the APIs and how many requests. Here you can change to 200 to 100. You can do whatever you want, but that's a good way to see if your API can handle multiple requests, etc., etc. I think this is it, guys. Sorry for guys and girls, sure. Sorry for passing the code live session, but we were running out of time. But anyway, I just wanted to show, and I hope that I was able to explain how Web API works, especially with .NET Core. A good way to create a project here, or a simple way. a simple way, to be honest, and how it works. So now, Anna, maybe we can open for questions. Maybe Valerio can also help me to answer them. I will stop sharing my screen. Just one last thing. This source code is available at GitHub. Okay, it's here. R Carneiro NET Core RESTful API. So if you wanna test this later in your machine, you just clone this and have fun. I had a lot of fun doing this actually, but if you wanna have more fun, that's up to you. I'll stop sharing my screen just a second. Uh, all right,
Okay, right.
I'm back.
Hi. We have some questions here that I took note. And let's start with Shun Jing. I think that's it. His name, it's very tricky. He asked if serverless can be compared to peer-to-peer.
I don't think so. The concept is different because when you talk about serverless, you don't care about the infrastructure. You just run your code. You don't care about anything. It's just a piece of code running. Peer to peer to me sounds like two endpoints to communicate. What do you think, Valerio?
I believe it's make no sense use
Mhm.
peer-to-peer with serverless. If you want something like peer-to-peer, you must use like a CNOR. I believe it's the right technology to connect directly to another endpoint in the internet. I believe it's the best way.
Yeah, me too. That's it, Anna.
Okay, let's go. Um, Glaucio Lemos is telling you that you made an also webinar, and let me see. Also, Carlos dos Santos is congratulating you about this presentation in English. I think it's nice to tell you about that.
Thanks.
And also, Glaucia asked if you are already using Visual Studio 2019.
I am, but not in production.
Yeah, okay.
I am using too. I believe it's okay. It's not that. I get no problems using the next version of Visual Studio. It's very stable. Okay, there is no problem because it's not if you're using Visual Studio the next version. The code is just built and using NET Core, for example. So the code is clean. It's okay. It's stable. It's so that there is no problem if you don't use the next versions of NET Core. If you use NET Core 3.0, you get some problem. But if you are using not NET Core 2.2, it's okay. It's no problem at all.
Are you using the preview? It's on preview one, right?
I believe it's preview one yet,
Yeah.
but if you get some problem with the next version of Visual Studio preview one, it's crashing the building. Sometimes some problem with the interface with the development, but not with the code. If you are using NET Core 2.2, for example.
All right. We have another question from Olavo Charles, and he's asking if what's the advantage to use .NET Core or .NET Standard?
That's net standard. It's a way to build libraries. Okay, if you are using net standard, probably using net core. .NET framework, concept is it's have a net framework. It's the old version. In the future, probably you will use not .NET Core 3.0 and the newer versions to all the code and even to build build net standard. Net standard is just a library. Okay, it's not like the language in C, the framework. It's a way to create a library in .NET.
That's correct. He said. He said.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Ray?
No, I would like to thank you guys for
No,
the invite.
sorry, that's another.
About that standard in NET Core.
Oh, no, that's pretty much the same thing.
Okay, there's one more question here. And Andre Ferreira asked, those guys mentioned about entity framework. I don't know exactly what does it mean, but using this technology, adding the REST API, is it possible to work with a non-relational project as well?
No.
No relational project or no relational database?
Database, I believe.
Yeah.
He put the word he used was project, but I think he meant database, something like
Yes,
that.
entity framework is ORM. Okay, it's object relational managing
Mapping.
mapping. Yes, mapping. So use ORM instead. You use select blah 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 where blah blah blah. Use uh, entity framework to handle these callings to the database. Okay, instead use select, use link. Link will be transform all these commands to the database. So basically that is what entity framework is. OEM to work with SQL Server, Oracle, and others database.
Yeah, I would say it's a database abstraction where you can use to manipulate the database, and you have some drivers. For example, in Brazil, we have a very good friend of mine, Rafael. I'm not sure if he's there. He's writing some drivers, I would say, to connect with other database. For example, Firebird. And it's very nice because it's open source now. We have implementation that is open source, and you can go there on Entity Framework Core project, and you can also be a contributor. Contributor.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's important. All this code about not .NET Core, Entity Framework Core, it's all open source. Microsoft is these technologies in development is all open source.
All right. Any other question, Anna?
Not that I can see here. People, no. Anyone? No one sent anything else. So I think we can end it.
So just one more response. When we are talking about the response in the call REST API, you can get JSON, XML, and William Rodriguez from Curitiba told he can return any mining type as a response. I don't know MINE. You fala, you talk mean. I don't. I don't the right pronunciation of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. When we talk about that, I just ask it basically which are the most used ones actually. But we can return anything actually. Yeah. But usually people use more JSON, XML, maybe not much. But anyway. All right.
Ray, there is another question here. Jackson, or Jackson, I don't know, asked if .NET Core is paid or free.
It's free, my friend. You can visit ASP.NET. Let me see the web page here. I don't remember. ASP.NET/core. If you want to write your own code there and contribute it to the open source community, you can go there and do it. It's not paid.
You can use Visual Studio Community. It's free, and everything about NetCore it's free and open source.
Well, now I think that's it. We don't have any other questions, just a lot of people congratulating you guys about this live. Thank you very much, Ray and Valerio. Uh,
I believe in sometime next week or we will continue this presentation, giving more details about REST API and something related to ASP.NET Core. There's something you can explain in more details than we did today. So soon we have more about this.
All right. And once again, thank you for this invite. Sorry because I had to rush with the presentation. But anyway, thank you. If you guys have any questions, and just one tip, learn English, make some good money, and be happy. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Just a second. Someone asked when will be the next presentation in English, and I can't find this person in the chat to answer that. I just want to say you that asked me that you can follow us in the meetup. We publish all our live and presential events there. So there you will find more information, okay? Bye, guys. Thank you very much and have a good night.
All right, thank you.